My new book, Pillars for Life, A Guide to Spiritual Ethics and Practice, is now out and available for you to read and purchase. You can check out our website, willowhealing.org, to find a link, or you can find it on Amazon. We look forward to getting your feedback, and if you love it, please leave a review and share with your friends. Now it's time for the show. Welcome to Willow Healing Matters, the podcast. We are so excited to have you joining us on this journey where we explore different ways to empower your soul, whether it's healing in your kitchen or all the way up in the corporate world. Come with us as we look into different ways to heal your mind, body, and soul. Hey everyone, it's Catherine Cristani with another episode of Willow Healing Matters, and today I am joined by Peter Gunn, who is a poet, composer, and author. So he is a US Air Force vet, an avid bodybuilder, coffee connoisseur, and a poet who strives to bring epic poetry and literature craftsmanship back from the past. At 7 years old, he succumbed to heat stroke and experienced a brief NDE where an angel told him he had to go back because his job wasn't done yet. Then at 12 years old, he had to deal with a morbid childhood obesity, and he also served as an altar boy and soon saw the fallings within the Roman Catholic Church. Honorably served 20 years in the US Air Force, and now he has his daughter in 2010, and he wanted to enroll her into his love of classical poetry, but soon saw that the feminine was left out of the hero's journey and decided to start writing the Amazons to alleviate this discrepancy. And he also invented LLP, which is linked lyrical poetry, to bring in a modern feel to the story. In 2020, Peter was hit with COVID, which woke him up to how many people were asleep in the world. So it was then that he decided the Stigma Squad graphic novel based off an ancient Gospels to let people know that it was going on behind the scenes that aren't the type to pick up a large book without pictures. In July 2025, he was asked to join a group of musicians from Germany to form a band, and they are going around calling themselves the Angellics, and they are currently in production of their first album, which I believe has just been released because you sent me the link to that today. So
Yes.
A big congratulations on releasing your album. Well done. How exciting.
Thank you, Catherine. Yeah, I'm really excited about it.
You've been on quite a journey. Like, wow. So I guess, where am I going to start with that? So having an angel, tell you after a near-death experience to go back to the world at 7 and then remembering that so vivid. Was it quite vivid, the memory of that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, and if you know anything about NDEs or read anything about people that have them, it was also followed up by the normal occurrences of the paranormal coming with. It's sort of like, when you drag a blanket behind you, you don't realize it's still attached to you. And it took a while for it to, so we say, die off. I started seeing ghosts, both dark and light. I started having instances where I was actually seeing the future happen before it happened, which spooked my mother, because she's a deeply religious woman. And, I was trying to figure it out, what was going on. I told my parents, that what I was seeing, but they like, no, he's imagining it. So I had to deal with it on my own. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really tricky, especially as a parent, like to know how to handle that. And sometimes, I've had a lot of clients because I worked for nearly 2 decades with children. And when I came into my spiritual gifts, and the parents would say, I don't know what's going on. They're saying like this is happening. I said, just agree with them, because the worst thing you can do is make them think they're crazy. Actually just say, I said, and then when I could start to sense spirits and ghosts and angels and things like that, I would be like, oh yeah, it's your mum. And they're like, oh, what? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like XYZ. And then they're like, oh, really? then the parents were like so accepting. That's, I always trust spirit with that, but the parents were so accepting of me saying that whoever it was in their life, and they're like, I knew it. I had this one dad, and he's like, I knew my mum was here. I knew it, and then just have that confirmation. But it's really tricky when your parents don't support you with that. And, but sometimes I had this incident when I was younger, and my great grandfather passed away, and I didn't know her. I was about 3 at the time. And my mum and my nan, I was like, oh, where's Pop? And my mum and my great grandmother were like, oh, he died. He went to heaven. And my mum's like, what are you talking about? You're at the funeral. But then my little 3-year-old self could see him in the garden. where he normally was digging up the veggies and everything. But then it was enough to cause doubt and everything. But then years later, when I'm talking to my mom after I'm talking about my spiritual gifts and things with her, she's like, "Oh yeah, I used to see your great grandfather all the time. He was always working in the veggie garden." I'm like, "Why didn't you tell my little 3-year-old self that was what was going on?" So,
Well, in any religion, there's always a line in the sand that you don't cross if you want to stay in that religion per se. So when I started telling my mother, hey, so and so is going to go come visit in a couple hours, and then that happened, she freaked out, and it crossed that line in the sand in her mind. Like, how is my child doing this? Yeah,
yeah, definitely. And especially like the Roman Catholic beliefs, like it's very, very, that's the work of the
strict.
devil. It's not as bad as the Protestant, but it's still very much like, oh, that's, and there's that fear element and that sort of thing as well when they can't explain that and it doesn't fit in the belief system that we've been brought up with,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, and she kept it quiet. She didn't even anything to anyone else because she didn't want to be, so to say, her faith be questioned. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So then what led you to actually join the Air Force after all these
Well,
incidents
I've
you've been through?
always felt a calling to serve humanity. I mean, there was a time when I actually was looking into, and I still feel very much drawn towards it, is to become a priest to help humanity. But after seeing the failings in the Catholic religion, Roman Catholic religion, and in most religions, when you actually start diving deep into them, I felt that that was the wrong path. So it was a way for me to serve humanity. I'm very much a patriot as well. So it appealed to me.
So then once you left the Air Force and you had your daughter and then you started seeing that, yeah, poetry is interesting. But I love that you picked to share that with her. So how did that journey go?
Well, I mean, as a father, you want to be inclusive with your child and bring them into this world and say, look, you could do this or that, anything you want, anything you set your mind to. But then when I saw the discrepancy about leaving the feminine out of the hero's journey, I was pissed. I was like, well, wait a minute, it's not fair. It's like saying to all our mothers, our daughters, our sisters, you're not worthy of the hero's journey. Just sit back and stay in the house. And it really pissed me off. So I wanted to alleviate that by running the Amazons.
Yeah, and then I'm assuming the Amazons was tapping into the Amazon women's energy. Is that what you meant by the Amazons?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I use that as an example because well, number one, there's a lot of evidence that they actually existed, not only in the Amazon, but in other parts of the world, like in Asia and Africa, when you start digging deep. And then there was a lot of discrepancies with the records. Some say that they existed, some said that they didn't, but everything that I was able to uncover said that they did. So that's why I decided to go with it because I like to combine actual fact with fictional characters, sort of like Dan Brown does in his works. And I think it leads to a much more enjoyable reading experience.
Yeah, I love that. And it's almost like a secret way of teaching people, which I know that's what you ended up doing in your
Yeah.
comic novel. But at the same time, exactly the challenge of like, so much of our history has been rewritten, right? That
Yes.
we only get the doctrinated version, I want to say. I think that's the word that I want to run with.
Mhm.
But so often when you start to dig and you start to realize, like I always think of electricity, I question why we're paying for electricity because, when you start to look back, like in the 1700s, they had electricity they were pulling out of the ether, and things like that. And it's just been kind of buried and forgotten, which is really interesting because my husband was sharing the other day that he goes, apparently it takes 100 years to forget something. He goes, that's not very long. That's crazy. That you
No,
can rewrite history and
100%.
it's insane.
Well, that's why whenever I'm going to find, do research, I always look for actual books and I look for the oldest date. So I find anything before the 1940s, 1930s, the older, the better because it went uncorrupted.
Mm. Yes, 100%. I actually said to my husband, I said, I would love to get set of Britannica encyclopedias before like 1920. Like it'd be
Hmm.
really cool. And then we were
Yeah.
talking about this. And then on Instagram, this posted up and he's like, oh my gosh, I got this Encyclopedia Britannica from 1907. What do you guys want me to look up? And we're like, I was like, oh my goodness. And they like looked up Atlantis and it had the exact geographical location of the second Atlantis, I want to say. There's a whole thing there. But, it was so interesting. I was like, we need to hunt these down. And then someone said to us, oh, yeah, we've got an old set. We're like, oh, what year? What year? And they're like, oh, 1950s. We're like, nah, that's corrupted history. We don't want that.
Well, I think we need to start calling conspiracy theories delayed truth because that's what's happening right now, is it not?
I saw a meme the other week and they said conspiracy theorists should be renamed as spoiler alerts.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So then you wrote your novel as well to help expose the truths about what's happening with COVID and things like that. And I fully understand and resonate with that. And then how did you come about meeting these people from Germany to be part of their band?
Well, when you go down the entrepreneurial path, there's comes a time when you're going to have to reinvest back into yourself and rebrand yourself and expand further. So I'm always looking for ways to do that. I decided with the Amazons, I have my good friend and producer Andrea Giordani redoing the audiobook right now. And we hired about 30 voice actors. So we're making it like a big movie production. And what I wanted to do was also include a soundtrack to give people more for their money when they buy the audiobook. And this is when I came across the band. I met them one by one on Upwork.com, and they had their own band formed, and they were attempting to put out songs and stuff like that. They were relatively successful in Germany, but so we say there was I'd say arguments between me and their guitarist as far as production and things like that. And I said, well, you know what? I'm going to just go my own way, guys. And we'll finish off business here. But then they said, F him. And they decided to come with me. So I sort of unintentionally became a rock star, I guess you could say. Because I play guitar too, and I could do better than him. He wasn't up to par. And so I decided to pick up my guitar and do the work, myself. And this is when we decided to join to form the band. The Angellics, of course, being it's I sort of say a tip of the hat to my NDE and the angel that told me that my job isn't done. That's why where we got the name from.
Yeah, I love that. I love the full circle with that. But I also love that when life puts you on the path that you're meant to be on, right? Like it's just,
Yeah.
obviously you had this calling from a very early age that you knew you wanted to serve humanity and then trying to figure out that and then, going from being a priest because clearly you wanted to share words, right? If you want to be a priest, you want to
Yes.
share words and
Mhm.
share a story that inspires people. And then you evolved and then going to poetry and then you created the Amazons and then you created your novel as well, and then accidentally found yourself now being part of a band. And what's your music about? That would be my next question.
Well, if you listen to it, number one, I would say it's extremely unique. You ever hear a song that the melody was beautiful, like it agreed with your ears, but then the
The
words
words are
were sort of like
terrible.
the words sort of like somebody's there hammering the square peg in the round hole, trying to make it fit, and it ruins the melody. Everybody's aware of that. The best way to alleviate it is number one, start with the words. So I wrote every song as a poem. Started out as a poem. I made sure the words flowed and that they added to the music and not detracted from it. And I think that's what makes our sound so unique, and also the fact that it was composed to sound like it came from the 80s. So it's basically new 80s music, I guess you could say. Yeah.
I love that. I love that because it's funny because that's where most of us, well, I say most of us, but I'm in my late 30s. That's where most of us get pulled to listen to music from the 80s, right? So
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
and they're the songs that we remember. And even, younger kids will know
Mhm.
and then they remake them. And then you're like, really? There's so much to sing about in this world and you're remaking the old songs. But anyway, clearly that's a whole other drama thing. So I guess, what do you hope to see from your music? What would you love to see as like a vision of how it spreads across the world or how people connect with that?
Well, I want it to hit people's ears that need to hear it. It's intentionally targeted towards Gen X, really. And I would say, ask them a question is try to remember who you were in your youth. Your teens, your early 20s. Look back at who you were and then ask yourself one question that would the person you are now, you be happy with it? You know, what would you I think we got cut off. Catherine, you still there?
Apologies, Peter. I got thrown out. Apparently, we weren't meant to talk about that.
You know, okay, this is odd. This is the third time when I started talking about the music that it's like the world conspired against me to bring it up. So I'm like, this is freaking me out. It's like someone doesn't want me to do this. Yeah, this is really odd.
So I'm going to leave this part in because normally I edit it out because I want to talk about this because this happens to me, Peter, all the time as well. So when I do healing on people or when I'm doing something really high energy, it's like AI and the technology can't cope with it and it kind of disconnects you and throws you out because it can't cope with the energy that comes through when you're sharing these things. And it's really funny that it happens to you. So I had a client, and every time I mentioned his mom, we got disconnected. Like, I kid you not, it happened 5 times in a row in this one when it was only ever when we talked about his mum, we got thrown out. And so I've just found that when things are really high functioning, even I had a client this afternoon and we started talking about parasites, and the Zoom just kind of went, recording stopped. And we're like, what was that about? I don't know what happened. So it's really interesting that when you talk about your music, that it's almost like, no, we don't want this to get out in the world. So often I think that's an indicator that you are doing the right thing.
Yeah, I have to say it that's because it's not just you, it's not just me. Like if you look at the filming of the movie Nefarious, you know, which was about Satan exposing the devil and the demons, they had multiple problems with technology that shouldn't have happened, but it happened over and over and over. I went on a live broadcast, and not only did we run into computer problems, we ran into the lights were dimming in the studio while he was trying to talk to me. And then he got really sick and I had to take over. So it seems to be us, say, trying to get out the universe. They don't want us exposing, what needs to be exposed.
Yeah. I found if I say, I'm going to talk about it no matter what you do, so just let me talk about it anyway, then they kind of back off. It's really interesting, hey? Like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's fascinating. And it just, it goes to show that there's a lot of interference when you try and put good in the world, but in the end, it'll get out anyway. Yeah.
Well, okay, let me try going over again what I was
Okay.
saying and get back to my point is the music is targeted to Gen X, okay? And I would ask that you try to remember who you were in your youth, in your teens, in your 20s. And if that person were to look at you right now, would they be proud of you? If the answer is no, what are you going to do about it? Okay? Yeah. Because that person in their teens and 20s was probably idealistic and they saw the corruption. They wouldn't put up with that BS. So why did you change? Yeah.
Yeah. 100%. Even if you go back to your child self, would your child come to you for protection? I know I saw something pop up today and it said who you turn and grow into and who you align yourself with as an identity as you get older is often when you feel most aligned is the person that your inner child would come to for protection and support.
Hmm. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I couldn't have said it better.
Yeah. And I also love that the timing of this interview where your music got released today, which is very, very cool. And how did you find did you find during the production process it went really smoothly, or did you have technical glitches like we have? Or did the forces allow you to record it?
Oh no, there were problems. There were constant problems, but it's not what it's one of those things where you have to keep pushing. Yeah, I'm the type of person. If you beat me down, I'll keep coming. Unless I'm dead, I'm getting up again. I'm getting up again. Yes. Just to give you an example of my stick to itiveness, there was because I'm a bodybuilder, of course, and there was a time when I injured myself at the gym. I actually dislocated my knee as I was doing a squat. It popped out. So here's my knee, and then all of a sudden about 6 inches over was the rest of my leg. I popped it back into place, screamed like a woman, but then the next day I was back at the gym. So that's my mentality, and I'm not going to stop. Yeah.
It's like, you can't stop me no matter what. Exactly. It's like that Queen song, right?
Yeah.
Don't stop me now. So I guess as if people want to start to find your music, which will make sure to put it all in the show notes. Where's the best place that they can connect with your new music?
Well, the album's released on all platforms. Just type in the Angellics with 2 L's, and the album name is Hazing Hades. And you could also go to my website if you want to look up more about the Amazons and my writing. Go to www.petergunn.net, or also go to Amazon Kindle and type in Peter Gunn, the Amazons.
Amazing. And I asked the guests that come on the show, Peter, if you could heal or change something in the world, what would it be?
I would say people's minds when they are acted upon in aggression. They seem to not be able to let it go. You know what I mean?
Mm.
It's something that people need to deal with, and they need to offer it up, and say, "This isn't my place for revenge," and just be willing to walk away from it.
Yeah, I find that's really interesting to watch too, and I remember having this argument with my sister years ago, and I was like, why are you holding on to the past? The past is the past. You got to let it go and keep moving forward,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, I mean, if you talk to anyone, even in the Catholic religion, that does exorcism, the first thing you're going to say is that demon stepped in on that unhealed trauma, just like that. That feeling of revenge that you're owed something. Yeah.
Yeah, which is so interesting, right? Because it's like I have this other client at the moment and she just keeps saying to me like, why isn't this happening like to the other people? And I was like, well, how do you know it's not happening to the other people? I was like, and have you actually stopped to ask why is this happening for you? Why rather than why is this happening to me? And I said, once you step
Mhm.
into that new question, you're going to get a very different response to why everything is happening for you rather than why is it all happening to you.
Well, you have to learn to become grateful because it taught you a lesson and made you who you are today.
Exactly. It's when you can find your blessings through the pain that you truly get to know that
Mhm.
you've healed that and that you can keep moving forward, and step into that really positive outlook on life and see the gratitude in that because anything we go through, there's always a lesson there. It's not something that is ever wasted. There's always some reason why you went through that or some reason why something was delayed or and then you look back later and go, I'm so grateful for that delayed timing, you know, because X, Y, and Z happen. You can't see it while
Yes.
you're in it, but you have to wait till you get to the other side.
There's an old country song that the lyrics say, "I'm thankful for unanswered prayers." Yeah,
I say, I'm grateful for the good I cannot see. Yeah. Thank you for the good I cannot
yeah.
see. Yeah. And it just helps shift your mindset, right? So, which is really powerful in itself.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And Peter, thank you so much for being on the show. I truly appreciate it. And I'll make sure to include in the show notes all the ways that people can come and find you, including your new album, which is so very, very cool. So big congratulations again. And thank you for sharing your words and your music with the world. Thank you.
Well, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here, Catherine.
Thank you for listening to Willow Healing Matters, the podcast. We have so much love and gratitude that you have taken the time out of your day to empower you on your healing journey. The views shared by the person being interviewed might not necessarily reflect that of the host and should be used at your own discernment. Trust what resonates for you and follow your heart and soul guidance. If you have any underlying medical conditions or mental health issues, please consult with your healthcare provider before pursuing any of the recommendations. Likewise, you can always contact the person being interviewed to find out more information. This can be found in the show notes. Remember to activate, align, heal, empower, and find love in everything that you do.